Now I'm going to be going over the not sports festival, the actual festival thingy. You know, like I'll be going over the provisional license exams because it was interrupted by the league. So, basically we start off with the battle happening. They're about to entrance. Now Christian, they have actually a couple of days before it, so he's going to try and master this ultimate one for all, aka the rainbow one for all, given to him by the seven successors of one for all, since All Might's still alive, and so is everyone else, and so is Deku. So really, he wouldn't be getting it. So he'd be training so hard that he'd finally not master it, but he can use it. And this is a new stage of one for all. He starts out at 5%. I'm kidding, it's a brand new form. His hair turns all rainbow, and his aura turns rainbow. So, he can still use basic one for all focaling. So we're going to start off with the provisional license. Everyone's going after UA. So when they come out of him, Christian says, I got this. He activates one for all focaling, and then blitzes over and knocks Yoshindo to the side, kicking him with the St. Louis smash, and says, anybody else want to smoke? Everyone else jumps at him. He says, good luck, United States of Smash! Punching the ground, sending everyone back. And he says, if I want to end this quickly, I'll just use my full power. He says, ah! And the giant rainbow orb shows up in the sky. He absorbs it into his hand, and then he says, rainbow, one rainbow, one for all, the gathering, and absorbs it into him, and says, get ready, and blitzes over, punches just keeps on punching down those students. He's like, come on, is this all you got? And then keeps on blitzing over, knocking everyone out, and they're all sent back. And he's like, come on, is that all? And he says, ah! Ah! And then he blitzes over at one, knocks them off their balance, punches them in the stomach up. He says, come on. And when everyone uses their ultimate moves against him, he says, pathetic. He blitzes over to all the people, kicking them into the face, sending them back, and then he says, come on. Backflips and says, looks like I'll end this now. Earth-shattering, Detroit, smash! Punches the ground so hard that it erupts with fire. I'm kidding. Everyone gets sent back, and he's like, and then every single school, except for UA, of course, are attacking him. He's like, here goes nothing. And then he goes into a stance, and then he says, come at me. Everyone comes, when all of them come, he throws them all behind him. And then he says, this should be a challenge. Every punch that is thrown at him, he either blocks or dodges. He usually dodges them and throws them back and says, come on, bring me more of a challenge. And then blitzes over and punches them all back. And then he says, I guess this is pretty boring. Hey, Deku, everyone in Class 1A, throw up the balls. This'll all count for you. Everyone except for Bakugo, but then Bakugo reluctantly agrees, and they throw them all up. And he says, shoot style! And then he kicks them all forward, sending them all towards everyone, eliminating almost everyone. There's still like 250 left. He says, less effective than I thought. And then Bakugo's like, you used all of them. Says, I didn't say I used all of them. Then he pulls from his pocket and says, still got this. We could pass it around. And out of nowhere, he's hit by something. He's hit by a sound wave, sending him back. Is Gang Orca and his squad and his gang. He's like, shoot. What can I do? He's like, then all of them come rushing at him. He says, let's go. But just punches one, throws him behind him, then keeps on mowing through them, saying, is that all you got? When Gang Orca comes for a sound wave, he says, nice try, Detroit, smash! Boom! And he says, come on, is that all you got? Then says, this is boring. And he blitzes and kicks Gang Orca in the face and says, I want more of a challenge. And then he side sweeps and then punches Gang Orca, saying, boredom. What a day. And he starts to hum. And then he says, maybe I'll do more of a challenge. I'll fight in one for all. Full cowling, 1%. That'll make things more interesting. He goes into one for all, full cowling, basic. Then they all start rushing at him, he says, reluctantly agreeing, take this. Puts out his finger and says, Delaware Smash! And then flicks him away, sending him back. He says, my God, so boring. He's like, maybe I can lighten things up. Then he yells, yeah! Erupting the place with power and a rainbowish aura, and he says, this is Ultra Full Cowling. This is ultimate one for all. And then he starts glowing white. Now I'm taking this from Dragon Ball. I don't care. This could seem like the ultimate form of one for all. I'm kidding, he doesn't do that. He says, Rainbow one for all. Ah! So then he blitzes over to Gang Orca, sweeps him, punches him in the face, and says, that all you got, pro hero? Throws him against the round and says, say goodbye! And elbows him in the stomach, grabs his neck, and slams him through him. It says, whatever, I'm bored. He passes and everyone else passes. Moving on to the UA festival thingy. With the rock band thingy. Majiggy. But not before this. It's gonna be changed from Bakugo to Christian because she hates him more because how powerful he got. He's like, you are just a quirkless loser. So it's time for a fight. He's like, really want to do this? He's really, really boring. So then, yeah. So Bakugo runs up and he says, use your full power! It's like, I don't want to. You're too weak. It's like, what? And creates a giant explosion engulfing Christian. He's like, really, Bakugo? And then he says, one for all, full cowling, rainbow! Immediately blitzes up the Bakugo and punches him in the stomach, knocking him out, saying, I don't want to get in trouble for this. Then blitzes over to Bakugo's room, yeets him in his room and says, wasted time. Blitzes over and gets right back to where he is. Goes back to his room and says, useless. Then just walks away. And Bakugo, when he wakes up, Christian wakes up to an explosion to the face. And he's like, what do you want? He's like, you stirred. He's like, you really want this again? He's like, yeah, I do. But then Aizawa comes in and says, what's going on? He's like, this idiot wants to fight. He's like, Bakugo, go away. You're annoying. You're stupid. And then Bakugo just walks away and says, I'm gonna roast that nerd. Which is Deku. Now moving on to the actual festival. He says, Deku, I'm bored. There's no challenges anymore. Can't challenge All Might, because that'll be boring. We've already challenged him and beat him. But maybe I can have a pro hero tournament. But after the sports fest, I'll name it during the festival. So the festival happens, Gentle Criminal comes, he gets wrecked by Deku. And during this, right before he said, after this festival, he says, nobody leave, I have an announcement to all pro heroes. I am hosting a tournament for anyone who can oppose me, because I am he goes, I am bored. Please, I am so bored. I have not gotten a single challenge since All for One. Bring me a challenge. So, and Endeavor and Hawk see that, and he's like, so, he wants to fight? And All Might actually wants to participate. Deku wants to participate. Everyone in Class 1A wants to participate to see, because they want to help their friend out, so they want to make him less bored. So they want to join. He says, I'll be hosting the tournament in 9 days. So then he goes, and then he starts to train up so he can master himself, so then he'll have so much challenge. And he says, welcome, so then the 9 days pass, and he says, welcome everyone to my tournament. And they're like, a 16-year-old hosting a tournament? What? He's like, yeah, whatever. So he's up top, and then he says, well everyone, come at me. So everyone from each side just starts rushing at him. He says, alright, this should be a decent challenge. He says, one for all, Rainbow, full killing. Immediately his aura bursts and everyone sent back, even Endeavor and all them. And he says, let's do this. He's like, whoa, just with his aura? Dang, this kid's good. He's like, let me do this. He blitzes over and punches Endeavor, sending him back a little bit. Then he blitzes behind him and says, St. Louis, smash! Kicking him all the way back, sending him, and he has to do a couple of backflips. And he says, Hell Spider! And then Hawk shoots a couple, and everyone does their full power in his attacks, and he says, United States of Smash! Punching the ground, sending all the attacks right back at him. And then they all get hit, and he's like, this is boring. And then he jumps up in the air and he says, you better move! He says, you and this entire stadium are space dust! He charges up a United States of Smash and says, if you want to win, you have to use your full power! He goes, ah! And he says, and Todoroki says, guys, we must do this! So Deku charges up to 1 for all, full calling 100%. Everyone powers up to their maximum. He's like, ah! So they all shoot their attacks forward. All the close range attackers going straight at him, and he says, United States of Smash! And rams right through most of the heroes. Once he reaches the long range, he starts pushing through, and he's like, ah! And he says, St. Louis, Detroit, Delaware, smash! He puts his foot forward. I will be right back. What package coming this late at night? No way, let me see. Show me. Go out the window. You just go out that window. You just go it out. Where's Jay? What the hell? Get alive. Alright, well, bye. Bye. Go. Where's Jay? We're getting over there. I'm recording. Get out. Why do you think I liked it in the room so much? I am back. So they're still clashing. He says, Detroit, Delaware. He uses both his hands, both his feet, and he says, pushing through the beams like a hot knife through butter. He's like, and then he finally clashes through and he says, let's go! And kicks right through them all and explodes the ground, it says. And with him there, and he's like, and everyone on the ground, and he's standing up and he says, this is so much fun. Come on, don't lose like that. And they're all like, we're not done! He's like, alright, that's the spirit. Everyone starts to run at him and he says, alright. So then he grabs Endeavor and starts using him as a sword, just going, shing, 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 shing. Then Todoroki breaks some ice and then he grabs it and says, Todoroki, no. Breaks off the ice and says, ha! And wields it like a kunai knife. So he slices Deku, pulls it back, stabs him in the back, sends him back, and he's like, argh! He tells everyone, Duh! He says, final! And he says, people may think that One for All is all about contact. Well, I've discovered a brand new technique while training. Ah! He jumps up to the sky and says, yeah! And All Might says, no way, not it. Not that, we can't defeat that. And he says, ah! Spirit Orb! Now this is just Soul Punisher, but it doesn't turn into dust. He says, ah! And then he says, Turbo Wielder! And then throws it down and says, eat it! Everyone clashes with it and he says, if you don't block it, you'll all die. And then he says, this is the true testament of heroes. Then he puts two in his hand and he says, ah! And then he uses it as God Punisher. And he creates one giant one and says, rest heroes. And throws it down, nuking them all, knocking them all out. And he says, oh, that was a lot. Then he drops out of Rainbow and then he falls to the ground. He's like, God, I used a lot of power. And then he hears a couple of voices. He says, you can no longer use Rainbow One for All. He's like, what? Why? And they're like, that was temporary. He's like, you can go back to normal One for All. And he's like, yeah, it was getting a little boring. And then he's like, I'm glad that I could meet you guys. And they're like, we're glad that we can meet you too. Then he says, thank you. And that's it. And Christian becomes the #1 hero. And has become the best.